this thing sounds so interesting, I'm actually going to invest. I'll give you all the money you're looking for, but I need to go to London now. I'll be back in 2 weeks. So please hold for me, don't try and go to anybody else for this. And he left. At the time I had been designing a site for him for energy and so on, he had just retired. And you sit there, we were looking for about $500,000, and you think, well, is it true that actually he can be someone that will give us this money? So anyway, we continued trying to look and so on, and many people would not even understand what we were trying to talk about. So when he came back, he actually was serious. And at the time, in fact, I remember him saying, well, we've just started an investment group, which turned out eventually to be TransCentury, and we need to find out, should we bring this to TransCentury, should we just do it? And his decision was actually, he will do it. And so we started the company. I remember going back to the UK, and the money he had put into my account in the UK, having been there for all those years, especially as a student, it had several commas in sterling pounds to go and buy equipment. I just thought, this is amazing. He was a true angel because he gave us money to build this business, and I think we signed the shareholders agreement 3 years later. That's when we were now agreeing on terms. Not that we had disagreed, but the important thing at the time was actually just to drive and grow the business. So we grew the business. We actually significantly fought with the market. Our license was number 16, I think, out of 25 operational and 50 licensed ISPs. We worked extremely hard, got a large user base, and over time we decided we need to now begin to corporatize. We even wanted to go and list in the stock exchange. And so what we did is we felt we need to expand. And we started talking to some of the other companies, talking to ISP Kenya. Do you think we can actually come together? They were primarily focused on corporate business. We were primarily on retail, even though we had a significant corporate business. Eventually they agreed. We actually acquired the business, which then came into Wananchi Online. And we were preparing now to list the company. So when we announced that we're going to list the company, some very wealthy people actually, one of them sent his manager to come, and he came with his checkbook and said, look, we'll buy the company. So how much are you looking for the IPO? At the time we said we're looking for 600 million for 20%. He said, that's fine. How much to get to 51%? So Jerry was not amused for something that we had built for so long, and so they, well, that deal didn't work. We did not want to sell the business at the time, and we just wanted to continue to build and grow a business that was working. I think we brought a price of 12,000 shillings a year, which was equivalent to 1,000 a month. We allowed users to actually pay, and then they could only talk to us after a year, which was very, very different and easy. But you'll be very surprised. Most of our friends were not the first people to support us. We actually got support from people who did not think, let's see, the Asian community have to be commended for having supported us. They saw something really good and they supported us. Others who we met and were great friends, even at the golf course, they would say, so yeah, this Wananchi, it seems to be, and this is a year after, it seems to be a good business. So should we connect with you? So you're saying, look, you are paying right now 12,000 a month for your connection. This is 12,000 a year. I mean, isn't it a no-brainer for a quality service that is actually working and so on? But it took time, but we managed to grow the numbers. We were the top domain registrar in the country. And for me personally, I was the CTO at the time in the company, and also chairman of TESPOC. So we're working very, very hard to lobby the industry, make sure that things are working. We are getting the gateway licenses. We're keeping the trends. There is a time when they tried to disband CCTech. And I think that was the time I used very strong language against Tuju. He was the minister then. When I look back at all those, I even started some petition online, against Michuki. There's many things I did which I look back now and think, gosh, that was a lot of passion. But in a sense, it made a lot of changes in the industry, and we were poised now to grow. We wanted to have an African footprint, And so we decided we're actually going to acquire Africa Online. That was actually a very serious project. And the only way to acquire Africa Online was to acquire African Next, which was the parent company. And so we opened the company to private placement, and we started raising money. I think we raised about $30 million to then go to the UK and acquire this company. Then we have an Africa-wide footprint. Very, very exciting times. I mean, I learned a lot. We used to have contracts about that size. And, you know, lawyers here, lawyers in the UK, and going through very many things. So fairly exciting time. And I was sure that we're now going to be able to build and grow. Companies like KDN had come into the market, and they had brought in a lot of infrastructure. There was wireless connections through the OFDM. We had now fiber connections. We were going to buildings. Safaricom, we already had services like 951. This is where you could dial using your mobile. And there was talk of 3G and all these very, very interesting things. So we had a strategy, and I felt that really what we should do is start building applications and working on using all the infrastructure that exists. So share that infrastructure as opposed to trying to compete and build our own infrastructure. So I think the team that came in, we didn't quite agree on the strategy. Finally, we managed to secure actually the acquisition of African legs, but Telecom South Africa was so hungry for the company, they were able to offer us something like twice the amount that we were actually paying for this company. And when you looked at the value and you looked at what they were giving us, the company opted to take the money, and we got the money. I became the deputy CEO now of Wananchi Group. But I felt that really I had done so much on infrastructure, and that seemed to be sorting itself out. Demo was now fighting the fight of getting cables into the country, teams, and so on. So I felt, well, I really don't want to continue fighting and struggling on the cables and infrastructure business. I want to go into applications. So I actually resigned from Wananchi Online, and at the time, I was clear on what I wanted to do. There was a business I was going to set up. But as I resigned, I got an invitation by the US Trade and Development Agency. These are people I had known working closely with USAID to go to a conference in the US, Washington and San Francisco. And they had invited about 23 countries, African countries, and they wanted to see what is the comparative advantage as far as ICT is concerned. And they wanted me to give them a view. And when I got there, I was talking with Russell Southwood, who many of you may know, who does the balancing act and gives a lot of information about what's going on in Africa. Many ISPs and infrastructure people are willing to give him information, which he can publish, but we couldn't share amongst ourselves initially. So he was a good exchange for information. So one day there we were talking, and I told him I left Wananchi and I'm setting up my own business. He said, you know what, there's some guys who would like to talk to you. So he introduced me to some guys from Google. And I was supposed to fly to see my sisters then, who live in the US. And the guy said, please, don't fly, just give us some time, come to our headquarters, let's have a chat. We think we can work together. So 17 interviews later, and 2 days gone, I flew back to Nairobi, and I landed at the airport, and I get a call. Again, the head recruiter was at Norfolk, and she was saying, look, come, let's talk. At the time, I had already an offer also from one of the leading telecommunications companies in the country to work with them. And I think the only thing left was I needed to meet with their board, but otherwise, it was almost like a done deal. So I was trying to tell these guys, look, your processes are slow, this is Google, and I don't think that, anyway, it's going to happen. I did not believe, one, I would be able to work for a multinational company. At the time, I had been branded very much the Atwoli of the ISP industry in terms of noise, and being just, guys used to see us making a lot of noise, but in the end, we became very, very good friends. And so the company was serious, and they gave me an offer, which I accepted, and we debated it a lot. I think I've seen my wife, she gave me, hi, yeah, so we debated